Hey guys, welcome to Frank's Tech Help. Today I'll be doing my unofficial unboxing and review of the Traxxas Rustler 4x4 VXL. And I call this my unofficial unboxing because I have had this vehicle for a couple of weeks, did my initial review of it, but there's a lot of things I didn't cover in that video, and there's also some issues that I ran into even within the first few days that I'll cover in this video as well, so just try to make you a more informed buyer as far as that goes if you decide checking this out and you're thinking about purchasing it. So back up a little bit here. So the first thing on the outside of the box that I'll cover is that this does have the new rigid low CG chassis, and the center of gravity is a little bit lower. It's supposed to be improve the performance on the overall, also for wheelies and stuff like that. Kind of keeps the body to the ground a little bit better and improves the overall performance of this vehicle, especially with the four-wheel drive part of that. This does have the new modular body style. The original Rustler VXL was kind of a single body design, and you could upgrade it, but there are only so many upgrades that you could make. So you're gonna have a lot more options as far as this goes. Now this does have a self-righting mode. You press and hold the setup button for like 3 or 4 seconds. If you flip it over, and it'll start rocking back and forth to self-right itself. You get back up on its wheels. And I'll tell you that this works okay, pretty well on the street, on the pavement, but in the dirt and the grass, whatever, don't count on it because I've tried it over and over again, and it doesn't really work that well in the grass. But on the pavement, after 3, 4, 5 times, it will rock over, so that does work okay, on the pavement. So it does have a clipless body mount. As opposed to putting the clips in before, it just has a little mechanism back here, and you lift up, and the whole body pops up and out of that. Alright, so this does have the Valenian waterproof VXL 3S 4-pole 3500 motor in it. It also comes with the Traxxas 2.4 gigahertz transmitter, and is capable of upgrading to the Traxxas Link system with the that you can use with your Android or iPhone to tweak your settings as far as that goes. There's a lot of new stuff in the designs, beefier shocks. The Talon tires, better tires in general there, the EXT, and it comes with the built-in wheelie bar, which I had to install on the regular VXL that I own, and then also the design of the slipper clutch and the spur gear and the pinion. Everything is fairly easy to work on. You can check my channel for a repair video on replacing this. And then also the drive axles here are a little beefier. I had an issue with mine, kept popping out of the universal little metal joint there on the VXL on the back wheel drive, two-wheel rear wheel drive model. So this one hasn't really given me any issues yet as far as that goes, but there are a couple of things, like I said, I'll go over. And then all these other points you can kind of find online. I won't go over all the finer points of that right there, but like I said, it does have the new modular body style. So I'm going to go ahead and crack this open and unpack everything. Get this out of the way here. So I have everything kind of unpacked and set out there. Let me zoom in here for you guys, get a little bit closer in on what's going on here. I'm going to set the transmitter aside, and first off, I'll go through real quickly what's in the bag. You have standard TQI system information. You have the actual user manual that has the parts list for all of the various parts that you'll need. Everything is identified, which is great if you need to reorder anything. And this is general information on Traxxas Link Quick Start Guide, how to set up the remote and everything, so that's good. Not as many stickers as in the original VXL, just like one little thing there, it just says Traxxas, nothing else. The other one came with a lot more originally. And then a little brochure covering the ID Peak Plus charging system and the different types of batteries that you can use with this one. Warranty card, extra pinion gear. Now this does come pre-installed with the 11-tooth pinion and a 54-tooth plastic spur. The pinion is metal, the spur is plastic. This is going to help with heat reduction. I'll get into that here in just a few, but it does come with the 17-tooth pinion, optional, which you can install in here, that's supposed to produce higher speeds. It does come with a small toolkit. You have a couple of hex wrenches, a couple of open-ended wrenches there. This will come in helpful for working on the rear Spur, the slipper clutch, I'm sorry, the slipper clutch and the spur gear disassembly and reassembly. And then also you've got your lug wrench for your tires there. Set that aside. And then you've got shock spacers to help with your springs. And in addition to that, there's an extra battery bar in here. I'll give you guys a little close-up view of that. So you do have a few options as far as the battery goes. We'll cover that here in just a few. So jumping straight into the car here, as I mentioned, I have been driving this for a couple of weeks, so you can see it's kind of dirty and stuff like that as far as running it through the mud and the dirt and stuff. Everything in this vehicle is really beefed up compared to the two-wheel drive VXL, and I'm fairly impressed with the design of this. First off, on the bottom, as I mentioned, you do have the modular design. You can replace just about any part, including the front and the rear main parts of the body. And then it has a really hard plastic bottom shell. So this does sit lower to the ground. You can see a bunch of scrapes right here. So when it lands, it does hit the ground a little bit more, but you can tighten up your shocks with those spacers if you're having any kind of issues. I haven't really had much of an issue with it yet. You know, I do street runs, off-road, stuff like that. So, so far everything's been good. Pretty beefy Talon tires, EXT tires there. And go ahead and do the body clip, show you that guys real quick. Clips over like that, flips up, and the entire body lifts off. One shot right there. Really like the design of that quite a bit as well. So keep in mind I do have my lights installed and an ESC fan and a couple of switches in here that I've already pre-installed. Like I said, been running this for a couple of weeks now. Alright, so I'll give you a quick look at the battery connector here. This is a new design. The old one had just a little bar that comes over and kind of locks it into place. You had to put a pin in it. So this is a new design for the VXL, the Rustler VXL line, and you just push down and it clips open like that. So you drop a normal 25C 3-cell 11.1 volt battery in there if you want, like that. No problem. Pop this out, and this does accommodate the NIM humpback batteries for that if you decide to go that direction. And in addition to that, it does come with an additional bar here, which you can put into place. And basically what this does is going to give you the ability to do an expanded battery. So for instance, a 75C 11.1 volt 3S battery, I would take this mounting bracket right here off and place this one into place. And then once that's into place, this would lock down for the larger battery capacity. The next thing I'll cover for you guys is the placement of the motor and the ESC. Everything is completely different compared to the original two-wheel drive VXL. The motor is inline, and then you have the center drive shaft running through right here to the front wheel part of this vehicle. And as I mentioned, I'll go over the shocks and everything real quick. Everything's really beefy compared to the regular VXL. The shock springs are larger. All of the hardware, the axles are thicker and heavier. On the lower control arms, they are cut out compared to the regular two-wheel drive VXL. This will help exit any debris, rocks, dirt, stuff like that, as opposed to getting caught up under the axle there as far as the front drive axle goes. Let me bring this in so you can see it. If you look up in there, you may be able to see the arm of the servo moving. I was a little concerned about this at first because, you know, having this open, but it actually is a good design as it turns out, because the rocks, dirt, everything just kind of falls back out of it instead of getting caught up in there. Alright, so for the shock tower mount up here in the front, this thing is beefy compared to the Rustler VXL two-wheel drive, but also in the back. That one is looks a lot more heavy duty than the previous one. And as I mentioned, it does have the wheelie bar built into it, and this is kind of a shock system. If you see the gap in there, it's supposed to work as a shock for that as well. And I thought this thing would break off really easily, but it's been super durable, so I'm kind of, you know, happy and surprised for that. And it has the same design on the front right there as well, so if you're taking any punishment on that front bumper, then that's going to help out quite a bit. And there's not really a need to put the extended bumper like you do on the regular VXL as far as that goes. So I'm sure you could. I'm sure there's an upgrade. I haven't really checked into that part yet. And if you're wondering about the lighting, I do have I kind of drilled out and did my own lighting there. I typically try to do that, and I've got some LEDs, green LEDs right here. The wiring runs back into here, and I did hardwire this for the LED. The green lights are run on minimum of 8 volts, and so I did hardwire switch in, but I do have a connector that I can disconnect if I ever need to just turn those off for whatever reason, so you're not, shorting out as far as the system goes. You could have a nightmare on your hands if you don't do your wiring properly. And then also on the 2 front lights and then the 2 small brake lights, those are 5 volt, so I just piggyback those off of my ESC connector and put a kill switch in there, so if I ever need to disconnect those, all I have to do is unplug that ESC switch, or the fan switch on the ESC for that. Now this does have the various modes. It has the low battery or low voltage detection mode, which you're going to switch on. If you turn this unit on and the light remains red, that means that the low voltage detection is off. That's usually for your NIM settings. If you press and hold the button, you can just look in the instructions. I forget what it is because I don't use the NIM. But if it's green, you have the low voltage protection on, which is what you want to use for the LiPo batteries. Now, this does have 3 modes. It has a race mode, it has, I think, an off-course mode, and then a training mode. So the default is number 1, race mode, and that's 100% forward, 100% back, 100% braking. The race mode, I think, is 100% forward, 100% braking, if I'm not mistaken, and no reverse gear. Now, I think I'm right about that. We'll see. And then the third mode is training mode. It's 50% forward, 50% back, and I think 100% brake, if I'm not mistaken. And so initially, when I got this vehicle, I'm using a 3S 4,000 mAh 25C battery. That was my first run on this, and this thing's got a lot of power, even with just no changing of the gear ratio, the pinion or the spur gear, using the 1154 combination with the 3S battery. This thing will get up and go. All right, so you got a lot of power. It'll flip over really easy if you're not paying attention and you just gun it and take off or whatever. So if you want to change that, once you hook the battery up, make sure this unit is turned off, and you'll press and hold the on button. Hold it for like 4 or 5 seconds. It'll flash green, it'll flash red, and then you'll see 1 red flash, pause, 1, 2, red flash, pause, 1, 2, 3 red flashes, and then a pause. And so after that first one, if you want to go race mode, when it flashes that 1 dot, let go. Or if you want to go off course mode, it's 1 blink, 2 blinks, let go, or 1, 2, 3, let go, and that's training mode. And then as soon as you let go, it's going to lock it into that mode. So just keep that in mind as far as that goes. Now, a couple of things that I do want to cover. First off, I thought they might have modified this design by now, but they haven't. I'll get in a little bit closer here for you guys. On the base of the springs right here, there's a little security clip, and there's a gap in here, and it basically just push it, like lift up on the spring and push it out. And this is supposed to lock the spring in place, but on the regular VXL 2-wheel drive, this fell off the front of my vehicle in like the first 5 minutes, and the passenger side started dragging the ground, and I never did find that piece. I used a little lens cap cover off of like one of those little cell phone clip-on cameras, and put it in place there, and it worked perfectly as far as that goes. So I was able to fix it fairly quickly without ordering any parts. But on this one, if you can see, I bridged that gap. I used a couple of dots of super glue and a piece of black duct tape through there, cut out in just a little rectangle, and bridge that gap to prevent that from falling off so easily. It still has the play and it still does what it's supposed to do, but it's just not going to fall off quite so easily. Now, the next problem that I ran into, with less than 3 hours of overall drive time within about 3 days, I had a combined total of less than 3 hours of drive time, and the spur gear ended up disintegrating. And so removed the cap off of this, pulled this out and dumped it upside down, and there's a bunch of plastic chewed up that came out of the bottom of it. So that was kind of disappointing. I felt like, man, I haven't driven this thing that much yet, and it's already destroyed the spur gear. And so I kind of complained about that in my first couple of videos, but I do have an instructional video on how to replace that if you check my channel. And also, I decided that thought I had the bright idea to upgrade this to a metal spur gear, and I'll tell you right now, don't do it because it overheats really quickly. 4 or 5 minutes, in fact. The ESC light will start blinking red. It overheats. You have to let it cool down. Now, granted, you could probably put a fan on your motor here or whatever. I don't want to have to deal with all that because I'm going off-road as well as on-road, street runs and stuff like that. And I do a lot of off-road, so, you know, the ESC fan is good enough for me for the moment. So just take that into consideration. If you burn out your spur gear within the first few days, whatever, just pick up a bunch, you know. They're a couple of dollars each at best as far as that goes. Even if you order them online, you can get 5 for like $12 or $15, something like that. So once you figure out how to take this apart and put it back together, you can do that fairly efficiently. So if you run this thing really hard and you're doing a lot of off-road and you're banging the crap out of it, you can expect to change your spur gears fairly often. So that was the first issue that I ran into. Or the second, actually. This was the first one that I fixed. It wasn't a problem yet on this one, but I went ahead and preemptively did that. So this was really the big issue, is the spur gear on this one for me. In addition to that, the metal, the clip here for the motor, this bolt, apparently I don't know if it took a hard hit, but it pushed the motor out just a little bit, and that actually expedited stripping out the spur gear. So take that into consideration as well. Now, the other major issue that I had is that the tires weren't fully glued. I mean, it had glue on it, but after running this for a day or two, the inside bead from the inside of the tire ended up popping out, and you know, I run it and I hear you know, and I was like, whoa, man, what did I do? I messed something up. Well, as it turns out, the tire glue had released, and this tire had slipped out of that inner bead. Actually, it's starting to slip on one of the tires, and it had completely slipped on another one. So this actually varies compared to the VXL 2-wheel drive. The tires on that are super, like, really glued. It's almost like they're melted into the plastic of the rim. And I took the rims off of the regular VXL, and I was going to put some Anaconda tires on it and pass the vehicle off to my wife. And man, they were so glued into place, I could not get the rubber to release. I did the heat gun method, not the hair dryer, but the actual high temperature heat gun to try to release the glue on those tires. I did the acetone fingernail polish remover, soaked it in that and tried to get it. Could not do it. Unfortunately, with these tires, I did have to go back and redo put the professional strength super glue. So you basically just go in and press back as you work your way around it and drop some glue in there, and then run a bead around the outside of that when you're done. And that's just a preemptive move to take care of that. Was it rushed? You know, this vehicle's only been on the market for 2, maybe 3 months now. So they're probably trying to crank them out, missed a few steps, you know, whatever. So those are a few of the issues that I ran into initially with this vehicle that you might keep your eye on. Another one that I had is that the rear drive shaft mount, let me zoom in on this. Now the rod, the drive shaft itself, is supposed to have a little bit of play. That's normal right there. But this rear drive shaft mount kept slipping. I tightened that bolt down, and after a few bumps, hits, whatever, the front wheels would stop rotating, and I come back and check this, and this was actually had slipped off completely. And the first time it happened, it was so bad I actually had to take pliers, clip onto this, and pound it back in order to get it to release properly, and then go back and put that screw in. As a result of that, the next time I came in to put it in, I made sure everything was in alignment. I actually put a drop of super glue back here on the actual post that sticks in, and down into the threads of this bolt as well when I tightened it down. Now it's worked perfectly. I have not had another single issue after I did the super glue thing on that. So those are all in my other videos if you want to check my channel out. Little tips and tricks and stuff that I've learned over the past couple of weeks for this vehicle. Another issue that I have on this is this case, the body cover. You can't just put it down and lock it down. It doesn't really work like that. You kind of have to go in at an angle slightly like this to make this front piece lock, and it locks just under the front of the shock tower right here. So it kind of has to go at an angle and then seat down. And so pull this up like that, Just make sure this is flipped up, and then when you go to push down, you can see it's not locking in, and then all of a sudden it does lock in. So it's easier just to grab it like this and pull it out, and then when you go to push down, you get it locked into there. Bring that back, and there you have it, like that right there. So that's all locked down. Now let me back off here a little bit, and I'm going to bring in the VXL 2-wheel drive model. Now I am passing this vehicle on to my wife, and I'm in the process of putting new Anaconda tires on the back, as I mentioned. So you'll notice the little pretty in pink cover here. This is a surprise for my wife. She doesn't even know this yet. I'm sure she will soon enough, though, as soon as I get the tires put on there. But I've decided to pass this one on to her to kind of get her into the sport as well. Usually when we go out and drive, I've been driving this one, you know, previously, and you know, she drives it every once in a while, and she's usually like, "No, you drive it. I'll watch, whatever." So I think she's going to be excited to get this. So it's going to be kind of a cool addition, having the 4x4 along with the 2-wheel drive, and to kind of get her into the RC sport as well. So anyway, this is just a cover I picked up off of eBay, and did the decals and put numbers on it. Her favorite number's 5. Put her initials up here on the windshield. My number's 69, dude. So anyway, the new 4x4 VXL. It's like a world of difference. Let me get this back off here and kind of get this in frame for you. So you can compare the two side by side right there. It is a complete world of difference between the two. Everything is a lot beefier on this, and that's because it's 4x4 as far as that goes. And the new design, it's, you know, it is really durable pretty much on the overall. I've seen videos where people just fling these things 25, 30 feet in the air, jump them for, you know, a distance of 60, 80 feet or whatever, and they hit the ground and they tumble, and it's fairly well indestructible, but as I mentioned, you will go through spur gears. Anyway, there is my initial review of the Traxxas Rustler 4x4 VXL vehicle. As always, I hope this review helped you guys out, and thanks for watching Frank's Tech Help. Peace. Oh, wow. Oh. Ooh. That's probably good 8 or 10 feet. There it is.